restore. Let's just hop right into this. My first video in a long time, and it's a little bit of a different format. I'm going to be walking you guys through a bunch of different basic home repairs, and I'm not going to have any fluff in it. Just get straight to the job and tell you how to do it with basic hand tools if at all possible. Today we're going to be replacing this GFCI outlet that you see behind me in this bathroom, and it's basically the same process to replace a standard outlet. I'll explain the differences as we get into it, so let's get going. So these are the tools that you're going to need for this project, although you can probably get by without quite a few of them, to be honest, as you'll see later in the video. It turned out that I actually didn't need to use my multimeter, my wire strippers, or my linemen's on this job. All I really ended up using was the screwdriver and the outlet tester. And really, like I say later in the video, this outlet tester can be substituted with a lamp, just to tell you when the power is indeed off to the outlet and it is safe to work on. Alright guys, here's the outlet in question. First thing you're going to want to do is to make sure that the power is off to the outlet. Hopefully your house has the panel labeled pretty well. If it doesn't, you might have to do the old flip a bunch of breakers till you find the right one routine. That's what I had to do with this house, unfortunately. It wasn't labeled very well. I used a little outlet tester like this. They can be bought for $10 to $40 or $50 for a very nice one. If you don't have one of these, don't worry about it. My go-to would just be to plug in a small table lamp or a standing lamp. It's a very simple on-off indicator. It'll be easy to find. When you find the right breaker, the lamp will shut off, and you can flip the breaker a couple times just to double check that you do indeed have the power shut off to the breaker. Alright, now really the only tool you're going to need for this job is a screwdriver. I usually use a 6-in-1 like this, so it has a Phillips and a flat in one screwdriver. Also pretty cheap and handy tool to have around. And you also might need a pair of lineman's pliers or needle nose. You can kind of get away with either. So let's go ahead and take the faceplate off, which would be the first step to replacing this outlet. So there's going to be 4 screws on this faceplate. If it didn't have this light switch, there would only be 2 screws to remove, just on a standard outlet. Alright, so now we have the cover plate off, and what we're going to have to do is remove the 2 mounting screws for the outlet itself, which are located here and here. On this particular outlet, they are Phillips heads. A lot of the time they're either flat or square heads. So I've put my Phillips bit in on my 6-in-1, and now I'm going to remove these by twisting them to the left. You know, old adage, lefty loosey, righty tighty, for those of you that are beginners. So somebody before me had put wood screws into the gang box to hold this outlet in. That's not normal. Normally they'd be a more machine thread kind of silver screw that has a flat head or a square drive, like I was saying. But that's okay. So we're just going to get these wood screws out of here that are holding this in. Now we're going to pull the outlet out to expose where our connections are for our wires on the back. Okay, so I'm bringing you guys in here for a better look. As you can see on this particular outlet, we've got only one black wire. That's your hot wire that's going to carry your 120 volts. And then you've got a white wire on the opposite side. That is your neutral. And as you can see, the neutral has a silver-headed screw, and the hot side has a gold-plated screw. Every outlet is like that. It'll indicate that the gold-plated is for the hot wire, and the silver-plated is for the white neutral wire. And then that bare copper wire that's on the bottom with the green screw is your ground wire, and that is the same. There will always be a green screw to indicate that that's where the ground wire goes. In this particular outlet, we only have just this one outlet hooked up, and so these top screws are not being used. If they were being used, it would be feeding another outlet on the same circuit. So as you can see, that is labeled line. Line is hot coming in. These other ones are labeled load. Load would be going out to the next outlet in the circuit, which we do not have in this scenario. So next step is to take these screws out, which I'm going to put you back in the tripod for. Our next step here, like I said, is to remove. We're going to loosen that screw, and we're going to remove this wire. Now, as you can see, the wire has a loop bent into the end of it. That loop is to hook around the body of that screw. So in this case, this outlet doesn't actually need to be replaced. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that back on the outlet. And I'm going to take my screwdriver and retighten this screw, making sure that I hold the loop snug up against the threads of the screw, so that as I tighten the head, I make sure that that exposed copper is nice and pinched in under the head of the screw. You would do the same for all three of the wires, for the ground wire on the bottom that we looked at, and for that hot wire on the gold-plated side, this black hot wire on the gold-plated side. And like I said, since this outlet doesn't actually need to be replaced, and now we know what we're doing, you would make sure that your wires have plenty of space and are not encroaching on anything else in the box. And you would gently press the outlet back into your gang box, making sure that it seems to fit appropriately before putting the screws in. You don't want to be forcing it. If the wires are binding up behind it, you might need to rearrange them. In this case, they're not. So what we're going to do is we're going to get both of these screws started back into their holes. But I'm not going to tighten them down all the way right off the bat, so that way I can ensure that we get a good, nice alignment on this outlet and it's not sitting in the box crooked. I apologize, this is taking a little while. Like I said, the person before me who was in here used these long wood screws, which take longer to put back in or are a little harder to drive. And so now I'm taking care to center the bottom as I tighten up this top screw. Now we can go ahead, like I said, make sure the bottom's centered, tighten up that bottom screw, and now our outlet is reinstalled into our gang box. And all we have to do is put this cover plate back on there. And I'm going to get same thing on this. I'm going to try to get all of our screws just started in place, so that just with my hand, so that I know I'm able to align all of the the holes properly for all of these screws. They can be a little bit fiddly sometimes, and so what I like to do is start them diagonally like that, so one up in this corner and one down in that corner, because that'll kind of give you your proper alignment as you're reinstalling this and make it a little easier to do the other two. Alright, so the last screw is going in now. And as you can see, I'm going to go around and just double check that all tightened. You don't want to over tighten these because it's a plastic plate and it could crack. So now we've got that back on there all nice and snug, and we should be good to go. That is a pretty quick and easy version of how to replace a GFCI outlet. Hope you guys enjoyed.